Hello, I'm Trevor Simpson, Associate Editor with Hotel News Now, and I'm joined by STR's Regional Vice President of Asia Pacific, Jesper Palmqvist. Jesper, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Trevor. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you as well. So, from what I understand, you've had a busy past couple of weeks. The last time my colleague Sean McCracken chatted with you, you were about to attend the Asian Hotel Industry Conference and Exhibition in Singapore. How did that go?
Yeah, it was good. Definitely been quite a few event season picked up all sorts of ways, both investment and marketing conferences. It's been a busy time as Sean went out to add to his family. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a busy time, and I think a lot of people, it's good because you get a view. You need to travel around, and when you do regionally, particularly in Southeast Asia, you see different views, different people who have different focus from an owner and developer standpoint. So I think
Right.
there's a fair bit of things to talk about today around that.
So let's get into it. Last week you were traveling in Vietnam and Thailand. Let's start with Vietnam. What's going on over there right now in the hotel industry?
Yeah, it's funny because I went to this event called Meet the Experts, and it was, I would say it's about 1,000 people there. It's a lot of experts. It was a great event, a lot of people there, and I went to the same event last year. And one thing I felt last year was that people were a little bit over optimistic, maybe because it was still a lot of delayed stuff and performance wasn't happening and airlift, etc. So I wanted to see what had changed. And the big thing this year, apart from a relentless optimism, and Vietnam is a great country and lovely people, for sure, and good food.
Yeah,
But listen,
right.
the main thing that have changed is that these resorts, these islands that had such low demand and no one getting there last year, in the last 12 months have finally come back. So whereas you have Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and a couple of other markets that were doing okay, now you had Phu Quoc, Cam Ranh, Nha Trang, and other regional markets that really picked up. And I think I had a slide up 60% growth in Phu Quoc, like over here.
Well,
So,
yeah,
but you're coming off a low base. So it's huge, like to see them come back. Now at the same time, obviously, there's a lot of unopened property still. It's the biggest pipeline in Southeast Asia by far and projected. Maybe everything won't open, but it is generally a big interest still to open there. And what stands out is that it is almost entirely branded. Around many
mm,
of Asia Pacific countries, it varies where you are if you'll have domestic brands or independent hotels. But I'm telling you, at this pace, Vietnam will be more percentage-wise branded than the US or any country because it's like everybody wants a brand, which means it's very competitive. But they're setting new records in foreign direct investments. The government declared also while I was there these big cost-cutting exercise, shutting down provincial officers and changing kind of how the map looks like. So a lot of changes happening. But like any country here, you need airlift. You need flights to work, both domestically and internationally. And that's one thing we're a little bit behind. But generally, a positive vibe and a big step forward for Vietnam.
yeah. So is there any particular reason why there's such a big push for the branding in Vietnam compared to other countries in the region?
It's a good question. I mean, fundament fundamentally, it's different. Say, and Philippines is a good counterexample because
Yeah.
very unbranded, and
Hmm.
and owners there. When I asked that question at the event I was the week before that, there was like owners are more um, thinking more about no, I'd rather do without a brand. I can do something, and also the international arrivals are lower, and they're not seeing the same international. But there is a tourism boom that have started, an inbound boom coming, and with that comes the brand interest. They're
Yeah.
also like in terms of who the big owners are and investors in Vietnam, there's only a handful. There's not tons of them. And once they get on board, you get mass scale quite quickly, and all the brands want to get in and get across. There's also a gap in everything from economy to mid-scale, like below luxury that was missing
Yeah.
in terms of market, right? So, and brands are very good at that and coming in and deploying one of their 3,000 brands that they have, right?
Right.
so, so there's quite a lot of reasons. But Vietnam is interesting with that. It got a lot of investment. few owners, scale, etc., and that grows it quite quickly.
So you brought up the Philippines. That was another region that we wanted to chat about. You said in a recent LinkedIn post, the best is yet to come for the Philippines.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it was interesting, and that's something that Sigrid Salcida, who heads up the Asia Pacific Real Asset Association, APRIA, and they had a great event there talking about all the different asset classes, what happens around data centers and offices and hotels and everything. And Philippines, again, went to that last year and felt, okay, this is the year to grow the international arrivals and tourism from DOT, Department of Tourism, but we haven't seen that. It's been low and slow, and it's true. Coming through election is politically not the same. I mean, let's not call it unstable, but it does have ups and downs
Right.
which impacts, right? If you look at the last 5 years, and the morning I was there was the morning when Duterte got caught at the airport from Hong
Oh
Kong and
yeah, yeah,
sent to Europe to be on trial. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening now. The impact on tourism directly to that is probably minimal, but fact remains, arrivals are lower than they should, and the pace of growth is lower. And that's fine. They see receipts growing because people spend more, but it makes you then look at domestic, like in Malaysia and Vietnam, no, sorry, in Indonesia, and domestic is not growing at the same speed as elsewhere. And then you have the
hmm
less branded owners are staying with what they have, and I think once the dust settles a bit politically, and remember in the last year we've had these pogos shut down the offshore gaming ones, right, and which changed the nature of Chinese etc. coming in. So it is a little bit in a change. So that's why Sigrid was saying that. Well, the best is yet to come, and I think that's a very Filipino statement in a way because now listen, there's upside, you know.
Yeah,
Love the Philippines, etc. Mabuhay, but there, I think that's one of those countries where you see a difference in growth for sure compared to, say, Thailand and Vietnam.
right. So, I mean, other than the political chaos and stuff, what are some of the other hurdles that the country's facing right now in terms of boosting those tourism numbers?
Well, I mean, if you behind that as well, if you compare the foreign direct investments and a willingness to get in different asset classes and hotels is much smaller.
hmm
And in terms of ownership and doing it and getting around the land, and even if you see these projects around Bohol and Cebu, it's still small scale compared to elsewhere. It's a big country. There's tons of opportunities. It's a beautiful country, but it's just not. It doesn't have the same fundamentals, and construction cost is higher. For instance, it's interesting. You look at in downtown Manila, in central parts there, Makati, you can charge good hotel rates in a few blocks in a few hotels. And
Yeah,
construction there, and we talked about the construction could be 20-25% higher in Cebu because of getting workers and everything out there to the east of Philippines. It's, I think, a lot of factors that contribute to that it becomes more limited in interest when the competition is pretty stiff in the region
yeah,
where you can deploy.
yeah, gotcha. So you were also in Thailand, which is convenient for us because we just ran a piece in HNN from a contributor, Selena O, about Phuket and how luxury lifestyle hotels are really taking off and leading to kind of a transformation of the island itself. So what did you hear out in Thailand?
Yeah, no, I saw that and I spoke to her and I noticed she'd spoken to Bill Barnett there at C9 as well, which is great. And listen, Phuket obviously it's an island that behaves almost in terms of volumes and the infrastructure like it's a city. And this is what Bill was saying, but it isn't a city because the infrastructure is so behind. The branded
Mhm.
residential boom that he told me as well, there's a lot already there, but 16,000 new units under construction, and that's a
Wow.
huge number for that size of island. Now,
Right,
on the
right.
back end of this, Thailand is definitely growing quickly in terms of tourism. It's one of the biggest, obviously, in the world in terms of engines. It's hard for it to fail. So Bangkok, Phuket, and other markets, starting to see Chiang Mai in north that had so much Chinese that are starting to come back as well, like Vietnam. But flights are increasing. They're staying a little bit ahead of the game, growing the capacity of Phuket Airport for next year as well, growing that. The one story I shared with the association last week was that because Phuket kind of has two parts. If people have been there, you have rest of the island resorts and more high end, and then you have this place called Patong, which is more party city, more mid-scale, upscale hotels, and that area has grown very quickly. A lot of Russians obviously coming in, either escaping the war or just coming out of the country with holidays. So it was a good peak season that has just passed, and I think we're seeing a little bit softer right now. But the long-term view is still that Thailand is strong. People are going to put more, not just branded resi, but more hotels. And and we talked about comparing that to Bali. I mean, people make travel choices. Like, do you go to Phuket, go to Bali, or other islands? And fortunately, there are seasonalities, other different sides of the year. But Bali has grown really quickly and has a lot of different fundamentals altogether.
Yeah.
But both are very, very popular, and rates have grown quickly. But it's still okay. It's still okay. People find good value in both markets.
Have you gotten into the television series The White Lotus, Jesper?
You know, there's no is the short answer, and I didn't. And some people say I started watching when I started, and didn't. Yeah, I didn't fall for it. And then some people say, no, it picks up, it gets better later. So maybe you can say if it gets better later. But then I know it's a big, well, a Western marketing thing to say, hey, oh, White Lotus effect. There is no White Lotus effect. Like, how many Americans look at that and go some way? Is it? Can you count them onto? I think it's overrated, but fine. I'll fly with it. But it's no, I'm gonna debunk that. The real effect why people go is because it's a great destination. But fine. Do you enjoy White Lotus?
I have not watched it either, but I thought it
Okay.
would be a convenient time to bring it up and ask if there was some kind of effect there because I know it is such a big deal over here in the States, but
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the arrivals numbers on peak season, what there's the numbers are so big, so it kind of blends in.
yeah,
It never hurts to have any commercial driver for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
But so it's not zero, but that's not exaggerated. But it never hurts. Listen, it was. Let's put it in perspective. When 10 years ago, whatever, when they had the Lost in Thailand, a big
Yes.
Chinese movie, uh, that was different. Then you had hundreds of thousands that embarked on North Thailand. So it's a little bit different. Then that's a real effect compared to that.
So, since the last time H&N spoke with you, the Australian Football League has started up. How are you feeling about your Sydney Swans right now as things stand?
Well, phew, I mean, I feel better because it was a really poor start.
Yeah.
Like two straight losses, not by a big margin, but not playing well and having some injuries. And I always struggle with that. How do you get injuries before the season start? But obviously with the new head coach and everything, like where's this going? But a hard fought win. We got our first win this weekend, which sorely needed to go out to Frio and win that. So we look, I it's going to be an up and down season. The Hawks look really strong so far. I'm not, especially against the Cats, but I have learned. So instead of a pure Sydney talk, you are with the Kangaroos, North Melbourne.
Yes, I am. And we've had a tough go of things since
Yeah, for the
I've
past 30, 40 years. No,
yeah,
what?
that's what
Like,
I've heard. I've been a part of the fandom for about 2 years now, and I've seen how things aren't the best, but I did not know the whole scope of things. So fill me in real quick on all of the the pain of the past with the kangaroos that I should know about.
I think we, I mean, clearly it's a long run of underperforming, but to see a win last weekend
Yeah,
was quite something. Now it's true that the Demons from Melbourne are probably even worse off right now, but hey,
okay.
a win is a win. You'll take it, and to see you in the top eight squeezing in is quite extraordinary. So I think there's been a lot of seasons of hurt and pain, and I think you started. appreciating the kangaroos just at the right point in time. Maybe there is something there. And I tell you what, the best thing is, it's the Swans Kangaroos next round.
Yes,
So,
marquee matchup. How do you? What's your prediction for that one, Jesper?
hello, listen, I gotta hope there's that's the Swans win. It's gotta be. I mean, I really hope so. But listen, it's so uh, anything can happen in that one. Swans aren't playing as well as they should, and you guys are on the up. So I very much look forward to that game.
Yeah, it's exciting. Exciting that there's a game that, means something for my Kangaroos right now.
My If I have one final point on
Yeah.
Southeast Asia would be on Singapore because people are talking about is it too expensive and that kind of stuff. I think Singapore generally does a lot of stuff right, and looking at receipt growth again from the new source markets, second tiers, and wherever it's coming and creating value. And I think the rates have grown, but it didn't grow for a long time. And it has a lot of new supply that is coming in a good way. It's a broader landscape again from economy to luxury. There's more locations, something for everyone kind of there. And it competes better long term. And when I look at the book of business, so on our forward star, in the data, what do we have? Singapore and across Southeast Asia, usually maybe around 1% better than
Mhm.
same time last year. So that means that we're slowing down the growth. So overall, the story Southeast Asia is just, again, slowing it down, low single digits, and so far keeping profit margins okay. So
Yeah.
GOP margins are looking better than last year, and so there's kind of hope in and muted hope and a positive story in there right now. And I think maybe a little bit of softness in Q2, but second half of the year should be okay, but not the dramatic growth that only Japan and, for instance, continues with.
Right. Well, that's a somewhat positive note to end on here. Jesper, thanks as always for joining the podcast. Great insights as always.
I appreciate it, Trevor. Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm co-stars Jan Freitag. And together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insights into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we also don't mind getting into some good-natured disagreement from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking data together, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Find us on hotelnewsnow.com and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Search for Hotel News Now, and thank you for listening.
This episode of the Hotel News Now podcast was recorded on March 26, 2025, and edited by Trevor Simpson. Go to hotelnewsnow.com every day for the latest hotel industry news.